It's spooky time in the tournament. One slip and you're out. No more third place parachutes for anyone who is underachieving. With the round of 16 set to kick off on June 29th, it's high time we got through each and every match, the strengths and weaknesses of each team, any notable suspensions or injuries, and of course, who I think will win. Here we go, the rematch of Euro 1992 final. However, the last time that these two played was 12 years ago at Euro 2012, in which Germany won their group stage bout 2-1 thanks to a late winner from Lars Bender. Toni Kroos actually came on as a sub that night. 12 years later is now retiring. We are now at the point where we could potentially be 90 minutes away from saying goodbye to Toni Kroos each and every time he takes to the pitch. Isn't that crazy? Pretty sad considering how great he has been lately, but he's going out on top. He's played in every Germany match thus far, as Nagelsmann has largely kept the group together, which I love. Some coaches have been chopping and changing a little too much, but Germany have stayed consistent. I believe not only that having familiarity is key in these tournaments, but building momentum together is important. Germany, of course, was the first team to book their place in the knockout rounds after dispatching of Scotland and then Hungary. Hungary was a bit tougher, of course, and Switzerland was the most difficult yet for them. But in looking at that match again, perhaps I initially viewed it through the, oh my god, Germany are mortal, Switzerland is awesome glasses a little bit too much, because in reality, Switzerland had a lower XG than Hungary did, while Germany had a higher XG against Switzerland than against Hungary. You know, that disallowed goal from Switzerland changed the perception for sure. But overall, Germany are one of the scariest teams in the attack, having scored more goals than anyone else by at least 2 goals. And as I've spoken of, what I like about them is how they can score in different ways and how they can still get opportunities against a low block. They don't play slowly and pass the ball around until they cross or fire from 25 yards at goal. No, Gundogan with the runs he makes in between the lines, the dynamism of Wirtz, Havertz, and Musiala, coupled with the fact that they can beat their man one-on-one also, that's a good option, and they are surrounded by fantastic passers as well. I mean, they have horses for courses. I do in some respects worry a bit about their defense. They have proven to be incredibly human back there, as Switzerland showed. Hell, even Hungary were carving out great opportunities. If ever there was a place to point to as a weakness compared to the rest of the park, it would be Germany's defense. As for Denmark, is a huge fan of how they have played in the past. I find myself a little bit confused by them this tournament. I still see flashes of great passing patterns, those automations that Hjulmand, the coach, not the midfielder, has ingrained into them to transition from defense to attack. You still see Eriksen getting on the ball and beating a man, or playing a line-breaking pass, or just generally pulling the strings for them and looking brilliant. But they had 3 draws to advance. And there are 2 areas of weakness in them right now. First, the defense. I do not feel comfortable with Vestergaard back there. For all of the good he may bring from defending set pieces, I see him as a liability when it comes to taking on a team that has even the suggestion of a bit of speed in their attack. Also, without Hjulmand to protect that back line, that could be costly for them defensively. And second, I find their striker options to be a little bit underwhelming. Rasmus Højlund is so confusing to me. In fact, he's a great metaphor for Denmark at the moment. At times he looks brilliant, like he's about to do something fantastic, and it never comes for him, does it? Let's consider some injuries and suspensions, as they certainly add quite the quandary for Julian Nagelsmann in particular. Not only is Jonathan Tah out with a yellow card suspension, but Antonio Rudiger will be touch and go as he missed training on Wednesday with a thigh issue he picked up against Switzerland. That means that if Rudiger isn't fit, then 2 center backs will need to be brought in for Germany. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking right now, maybe Hummels would have been nice for the squad, would have been a nice option right now. And so in that position, who does Nagelsmann have to choose from? You have Robin Koch of Eintracht Frankfurt, you have Waldemar Anton of Stuttgart, and Nico Schlotterbeck of Dortmund. Or maybe Nagelsmann will get a little freaky with it and put on Emre Can back there, just as Edin Terzic did on a few occasions last season at Dortmund. As for Denmark, Morten Hjulmand will also be suspended for this match, which to me is a big loss, as I find him to be one of their most important players in the midfield and just in general in this side, one of their top talents after that great season with Sporting. So will it be a slight change of midfield structure without him and bring in someone to help progress the ball, or slot in Christian Norgard to partner Højbjerg in the middle of the park? You would think that Denmark are going to play relatively deep against Germany, so the additional defensive midfielder will be warranted. Even with the center backs missing for Germany, I mean, the new dynamic have to be navigated in the back line is scary for them. I don't know that Denmark has the wherewithal to defend for a full 90 minutes against this German attack. They may get a goal, but I think that Germany still moves on. Italy and Switzerland, two sides that are incredibly familiar with each other. These two sides know each other very well. I mean, Freuler, Abischer, and Ndoye all play just for Bologna, and plenty of other members of the Swiss squad play in Serie A as well. Switzerland has their entire squad to choose from. All 26 members are both fit and available for selection. No suspensions or injuries for them. Italy, on the other hand, will have to do this without Riccardo Calafiori, one of their bright spots in this tournament, the man who made Zaccagni's heroics possible, so the question of who will take his place will be top of mind for Spalletti. Also, whether Italy plays with a back three again or a back four, as Darmian can do a back three, but maybe isn't ideal for a back four, at least as a center back. He has Mancini, Gatti, and Buongiorno to choose from for center backs. And I'm curious, how do you rate Italy's group stage? I found it to be not overly convincing, and I'll explain why. First, my worst fears came true with Spalletti. As I said in my preview, this is not the true Spalletti ball that we crave so badly, because how could it be? At Napoli, it took a full season for his ideas to truly, to a league-winning degree, take hold in the squad. How can he convey them to this squad when they get a few weeks together each year before they are back to their club teams again? So instead, we've had a watered-down version of Spalletti ball. Add to the fact that injured players that haven't made it to this tournament, and the personnel isn't optimum either, especially in the midfield. At least once you get past Jorginho and Barella, that's what I mean by in the midfield. So it makes sense that you see Italy get a win over Albania thanks to their play in the opening 20 minutes, then get absolutely played off the park by Spain, and then rely upon a 98th minute equalizer against perhaps the worst Croatian team that we've seen since, 2016? I think that's fair to say. What Italy do have is some decent individuals sprinkled around there, like Barella is undoubtedly fantastic. Donnarumma is in fine form right now for Italy. Pellegrini has been quite decent. Calafiori has been great, but he's suspended. Where I worry about Italy the most is in the attack. Goals will be a problem for them as Raspadori, Retegui, and Scamacca are all misfiring. Switzerland, they have been far, far better than I expected, and I put so much of that on Granit Xhaka. This man is having the season of his life after helping Leverkusen to the domestic double, so close to the triple. If it wasn't for Atalanta, maybe he'll channel his revenge into Italy as a nation, you know? He's been a leader both through his performances and through being a leader. But on top of that, his buddy Michel Abischer has been great alongside him, while Akanji and Schär came alive in their last match against Germany. Schär, who scored a lovely own goal in this tournament. I mean, he's committed to getting own goal that golden boot. He's part of the cause. But speaking of goals at the other end, Switzerland have shown how economical they can be with their chances. Look at Shaqiri's goal against Scotland, the counters they converted against Germany, only one counted, but still, or their goals against Hungary, the 3 they scored there. They don't need too many chances to score, and with the form that Embolo and Ndoye are in, as well as even Vargas coming off of the bench and looking great, scoring a goal that was disallowed, Switzerland are a really tactically sound headache to deal with. Now, looking at some of the Italian newspapers, I see that some are pushing that Italians believe in this team all of a sudden due to that last gasp equalizer from Zaccagni. I mean, to me, it was a poor Italian side by their own standards, getting a 98th minute equalizer in a glorious fashion, but against the worst version of Croatia, again, that we've seen since, 8 years. But who knows? It's so Italian to have a not so great group stage, play unconvincingly in the tournament and have close calls, but still find a way to win. It's in their DNA. These Italian teams have something in them where they find a way somehow, and I respect them for that. But I think that this Swiss side will put an end to them now, as their strong defense and lethal counter will catch Italy out. Romania advanced from Group E in first. Who had that as their prediction? I'm sure some Romanians did, but not many people expected them to finish above Belgium in this group. I think I had them in third, advancing in third, but hey, whenever I'm wrong, I'm happy, as surprises are what makes watching football fun. And Romania certainly surprised Ukraine with the way they started that match, started their tournament, absolutely pelting the ball as hard as they could on sight of the goal. And I did worry a bit that perhaps Romania simply overperformed with the finishes there and couldn't retain that kind of attacking pedigree throughout the tournament. If you want to get stat nerdy, overperforming their XG a little too much in that first match and unable to keep up with it later. That was partially proven true, partially as they were shut out by Belgium and they scored against Slovakia thanks to a penalty. But the danger from them was there. They forced big saves out of Castells and Dubravka still, so Romania can attack. I think they defend better than they attack, but they also hustled their asses off. They would press ferociously as they did against every team they faced, and Iordănescu's boys would switch to attack from defense quickly. I also didn't have the Netherlands in third in their group, so I was wrong about both countries. The Netherlands, they have the right to feel slightly aggrieved about how things went for them against France. Even though by the letter of the law, it was rightfully disallowed, I'd still be feeling sorry for myself if I was Xavi Simons, the boy who always looks like he's crying. Quality player though, absolutely fantastic. Speaking of crying, the Dutch defense makes me want to cry, as how many times do we see them get absolutely cut open in this tournament so far? Such as against France, which, okay, it's France and they have exceptional attackers. And against Austria seemingly scored whenever they decided they wanted to score. They would go forward, play a couple of give and goes, and suddenly, thanks to the Dutch back line resembling a zigzag, they would be through. Now, part of that is due to the great quality of Austria. The other part is that there's something funky going on with the Dutch defensively. Even Van Dijk, not looking great out there. Thankfully for them, their attack is quite capable of doing some damage, as Cody Gakpo tends to turn up in tournaments for the Netherlands, and this one has been no exception as he has 2 goals already. Memphis Depay is always a threat as well, and I've really liked what I've seen from Daniel Malin. Own goal aside, yes, another servant of the own goal for Golden Boot cause. Gotta respect it. I think the midfield is unsettled for Koeman, as evidenced by how he started Veerman against Austria. Veerman really struggled, and Veerman was hauled off after 30 minutes. So we'll see what Koeman goes for in the midfield. Maybe Wijnaldum will get a start, as he has come on as a sub in each match, as has Schouten though. Maybe he'll go for experience from Wijnaldum. Now, I think that the energy that Romania is going to play with will be difficult for the Netherlands to keep up at times, similarly to how they struggled against Austria's pace of play and energy. On top of that, I think that Romania will cause issues with that sketchy back line for Netherlands, but the Netherlands will ultimately come out on top, outgunning Romania. Now that Depay is firing, I think he'll get 1 or 2 against Romania as well. Speaking of Austria, the winners of Group D, and deservedly so, they are taking on Turkey in the round of 16. Turkey made it through with 6 points following their 2-1 victory over Czechia on the final day of the group stage, a match that saw the referee go a bit nuts with the cards, dropping them all over the place. I mean, just look at this. Look at all this. Crazy. But Montela's plans for this team are not clear, and that shows in his team selections. The midfielders in particular, as well as the wingers and fullbacks, have been swapped about. Perhaps my prediction was correct in that he wanted to reserve his starters for the match against Czechia. That's why he switched things for Portugal. That's why you see a similar lineup between the Czechia and Georgia matches, but it comes across as not really knowing your best 11. Those are the optics, at least. Regardless, Turkey got the results they needed to progress, even if it was extremely touch and go against Czechia. I mean, they would have advanced even with a draw, but playing with an extra man for 70 minutes and then getting your equalizer doesn't breed a lot of confidence, especially when Czechia were still creating chances, dangerous ones for themselves, a man down. Turkey does have very talented attackers in Güler and Yildiz on the wings. That Yildiz run against Czechia. Whew. And make no mistake, Barış Yılmaz is talented as well. He's been in good form for them and is coming off of a solid season with Galatasaray, where he mostly played as a winger. So seeing him at the striker position is interesting. So they're good in the attack, mostly, but they do concede plenty of chances for their opponents. That back line is not strong. It's a big worry. Unluckily for Turkey, Austria are actually the second highest scoring side in this tournament, second only to Germany, of course. Their attack has been potent. Hell, they've even scored goals on themselves. So has Turkey, to be fair. So they're both part of the cause. But Austria have been a bit different in this tournament, haven't they? Different from the Austria of the past, and they've done it all without one of their talisman, David Alaba. But he's there on the bench to help with team spirit, be a leader. He's on vibes, head of vibes. Ralf Rangnick, man, I got shit on by United supporters after his failed tenure there because I bigged him up. Where, to be fair, perhaps people will look back on that tenure and say, he was right, as the players there don't work for any manager, really. And he spoke of the club needing open heart surgery. What he's done at Austria as far as open heart surgery has bore fruit. They are playing football that I, in my lifetime, have never seen Austria play before. The way they move the ball is amongst the best in this tournament. Quick, incisive 1-2s. There's always two options for the ball carrier. The attacking midfielders are always looking to get in behind and overlap, where the striker can make a run or drop deep. Sabitzer and Baumgartner have been fantastic. Everyone presses the hell out of you when they lose the ball. They play with pace. They are a truly difficult side to play against. France learned that, only beating them thanks to an own goal. They then beat Poland handily. They then had that excellent match against the Netherlands in which they nearly won 4-2. 3-2 will do it though. Basically, when I think of playing against Austria, I think of how they overwhelm opponents, and I think of how they have been able to carve out chances even against defenses like France or Poland's. Netherlands defense, I mean, you know my thoughts on them. But yeah, Turkey's weak defense will let them down in the end, and I think Austria will win this match. Not by the extent that they beat Turkey in March, where they beat them 6-1, but overall, relatively comfortable. Slovakia and England, the side of the bracket that provides a fairly decent run to the final without having to face a traditional power. I'm not saying this side of the bracket is just as hard. It's not. But if you consider how the traditional powers, or at least some of them, have been misfiring in this tournament, England included, then perhaps this side of the bracket will provide some upsets. At least, that's what an English pundit would tell you. Slovakia themselves provided the first big upset of this tournament when they defeated Belgium 1-0. Yes, Belgium had a couple of very, very close calls that disallowed their equalizer, especially that Openda handball, man. But the point remains, Slovakia is a team that can defend well, and while they aren't a free scoring team, they provide a threat. Ivan Schranz has been dangerous and he has 2 goals. Haraslin has come close on a few occasions. Duda's late runs into the box sometimes go unnoticed, so there is somewhat of a threat there. I like their midfield also, as Napoli midfielder Lobotka has been clean in there for Slovakia. And then at the back, you have a decent back line with Hančko, Pekarik, Varo, Skriniar. Hančko in particular is a good defender coming off of a fantastic season with Feyenoord. However, the backline will concede opportunities. They are not an absolute brick wall, and it will just be a question of whether England can take those opportunities. And which England we see in this match, because the England of this tournament has been quite poor, haven't they? They've been booed off of the pitch twice now, with Southgate saying there's an unusual atmosphere around the team. England got a win and 2 draws in their group, but only managed to score 2 goals across 3 matches against Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia. It feels so long ago, like it was a different team when Bellingham powered that header past Serbia. Since then, England took their foot off the gas and have been a dreadful watch. Since that second half of their first match, they've been brutal. The annoying part is that they have all of the pieces. They have the talent in order to be a top contender for this tournament, but consistent weird choices in team selection are holding them back. Gallagher didn't do anything in his first 2 substitute appearances in order to warrant getting a start against Slovenia. He doesn't control the ball and advance it like England needed out of a midfielder who was partnering Rice in the midfield, but Gallagher started, didn't he? Kobbie Mainoo sat on the bench. Phil Foden, he was constantly plopped onto the left flank despite needing to be in the middle to be effective. Why was Palmer only given garbage time against Slovenia? Did Southgate notice how much he and Mainoo changed the match for England? I could go on, but you guys have heard it all before. At least England looks strong defensively, and a great story out of that has been Mark Gahey, a rock at the back with Stones. Hey, how'd you like that one? I do feel that England's backline has been relatively untested, but I don't know that Slovakia will provide the test for them. It won't be a pretty match in the slightest. It looks like another group stage match for England, but I do expect them to advance. Georgia beat Spain in a friendly prior to Euro 2016. Will they beat them again? Prior to the tournament, I would have given you an adamant no, as Georgia and Spain shared a qualifying group, and Spain won those matches 7-1 and 3-1. Georgia couldn't beat anyone in their qualifying group but Cyprus, and made it to the tournament via the Nations League playoffs by beating Luxembourg and then Greece in a shootout. So, will they beat Spain? Of course! My answer has changed somewhat, but Georgia have been the greatest story of this tournament thus far as narratives go. The lowest ranked nation at this tournament, not expected to do anything, and then they get the ball rolling, so to speak, by getting a draw against Czechia. Then, against Portugal, gifts from Antonio Silva aside, complete squad rotation from Martinez aside, and Georgia were superb against Portugal. They did their part. They can only beat what's in front of them. They did so. They have some talented attackers in Kvaratskhelia, whom we know all about at this point. But Mikotadze has also scored 3 goals in 3 matches, 2 from the spot, but still, they are a team that plays incredibly aggressive football. They don't give you an inch, they hustle you all match long, and when they win the ball, they counterattack lightning quick, using the speed of Kvaratskhelia and Mikotadze and whoever else can get forward in time to hurt you. On top of that, they have one of the contenders for the top player of the tournament thus far, Georgi Mamardashvili, the keeper who has made save after save, averaging 7 saves per match, with 21 so far after 3 group stage matches. And it's not just the volume, but it's the kind of saves he's made, as he has flown through the air to block the top corner, got low quickly to make reaction saves and stop sure goals. And Opta numbers have shown that he has saved approximately 3.58 goals thus far. Incredible stuff. He's their backbone. He's carried them at times, as Georgia have the highest expected goals against in the entire tournament by a long shot with 7.9, and they only conceded 4. And he'll certainly be busy against Spain, against players he will know well, as he is, of course, Valencia's #1 keeper. But speaking of Spain, they were one of the most impressive teams in this tournament. They rotated their squad and still defeated Albania on the final day. But the 2 matches that came before that is where Spain was shining the brightest, starting the tournament off with a 3-0 win over Croatia. The 3rd place team from the World Cup just 2 years ago is quite the statement. Following that up with the game against Italy was a warning to the rest of the tournament. Italy only conceded once, but only conceding once was largely down to Spain's misfortune around the goal in that match. It was a little bit like PSG's misfortune against Borussia Dortmund, where they hit the post a million times. Spain hit the woodwork twice and had countless close calls from Williams and the fellas. On another day, that was at least a repeat of their first match, a 3-0 or something. And they limited Italy to just 4 attempts, 1 on target, so defensively sound as well. Speaking of Williams, much of Spain's threat comes from the wide areas in Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, both of whom are demons on the flank. But you can't ignore the middle, as you're dealing with Rodri, Pedri, and Fabian Ruiz, who's having a superb Euro 2024 tournament, maybe their best midfielder thus far, and Dani Olmo is banging on the door as well. The defense has also been fantastic, as Spain are yet to concede a goal at this tournament, 3 clean sheets from 3 matches, even when they rotated against Albania on the final day, which is impressive. So while I do love the story of Georgia, and they are playing some inspired stuff with incredible support behind them as well, it's difficult for me to see them surprise Spain as they did against Portugal. For that to happen, they'd need Spain to rest most of their starters, and they'd need a few Antonio Silva-esque gifts from the Spanish defense, which doesn't seem likely. Spain to go through, but I'm praying we get another upset, man. That would be so fun to see, wouldn't it? A classic, Belgium versus France, conjures up memories of the 2018 World Cup when who scored the winner to bury Belgium in the semifinals? I'll give you a sec to think about it. You're wrong, it was Samuel Umtiti. Remember him? Anyway, these two also met in the Nations League in 2021, with France beating Belgium 3-2. This is their first time meeting in the Euros since 1984 though. France's tournament has been a strange one. They have been quite strong in most areas of the pitch. The midfield has been great, as N'Golo Kante has put in 2 man-of-the-match performances for France. The defense has been decent overall, but in Upamecano, there's a weakness there. He's a magnet for mistakes, as he has been for the last year or two, oftentimes undoing all that good that he has done with a silly mistake, such as the one against Poland. He looked shaken after he gave that penalty away, so I'm curious to see if Deschamps will replace him with someone like Benjamin Pavard or Konate if he's clear to play now. The other aspect that is strange with France has been their attack. It's been an anomaly. They still haven't scored a goal from open play, which is crazy. They advanced from their group in 2nd place despite just having 2 goals to their name. The own goal, which was the winner against Austria, and then Mbappe's penalty against Poland for the draw. That's it. A win and 2 draws, 2 goals for them. None from open play. So I would be worried somewhat about the attack, but there's clearly some strange curse on their players. Griezmann should have scored plenty against the Netherlands. Mbappe was constantly peppering Skorupski against Poland, but that man played one of the best matches of his life. France have accumulated one of the highest expected goals in the tournament, which speaks to the threat that they still have in the attack, just missing the finishing from them. And speaking of missing a finish, Lukaku has been unfortunate for Belgium. Well, unfortunate and lacking quality at times. 2 things can be true. The goals that he has had disallowed are so marginal, especially his goal against Romania. That was crazy. But then he has had other moments in front of the goal where he's just looked so poor. Look at his attempted finish against Ukraine from the other day, where he scuffed it from a brilliant scoring position. I think for Belgium's own good, it may be the right idea to put somebody like Lois Openda out there against France. Openda is fresh. off of a great season with RB Leipzig, where he scored 28 goals and assisted 7 in 45 matches. The year prior, he was fantastic for RC Lens, so why not give him the start? He's looked bright every time he's come onto the pitch, and at this point, Lukaku is hurting Belgium's attack more than he's helped it in some respects. Big Rom off of the bench may not be such a bad idea. Belgium's midfield is great, no issues there with Tielemans and Onana, then De Bruyne playing ahead of them. De Bruyne was inspired against Romania, not as much against Ukraine, just like the rest of his teammates, and they carry a lot of danger on the flanks with Doku, Trossard, Bakayoko, whomever. Casteels has been very good for Belgium in goal, saving them on a few occasions, so they aren't feeling the Courtois absence as much as perhaps I would have thought. But I still don't trust the defenders in front of him, not completely at least. They've been a bit better than I expected, but can they withstand these French attackers for 90 minutes? I'm not so sure. And I think these French attackers are due to find their scoring touch now. That's what I'm banking this prediction on. While I think Doku can do some damage on that side of the pitch, especially if he's up against Upamecano, I don't know that it will be enough. And I have France going through with Mbappe hitting his stride after scoring his first ever European Championship goal against Poland. Isn't that crazy? And last but not least, we have Portugal coming up against Slovenia. Let's start with Slovenia, who shared a group with England, and they didn't lose a single game, but they didn't win a single game either. Them, alongside Denmark, didn't win a single game and still made it through. What a world the European Championships lives in, hey? Madness. Slovenia carry a threat in the attack in Benjamin Sesko, but thus far, goals have been very hard to come by for Slovenia. They've scored just 2 goals from an expected goals of 2.6, so they aren't exactly lighting up the world when it comes to generating chances. And at times, Sporar has been very wasteful for them. But alongside Seško, they do make up a somewhat tricky partnership. Sporar's movement is probably his best strength in this tournament so far. He'll suddenly pop up in a dangerous area, but he doesn't carry much of a threat yet. The strongest part of their game is, of course, their defense, as Jan Oblak has made some huge saves at times in this tournament. He was a thorn in the side of the Serbian attackers in particular, making big saves as he was coming off of his line quickly to cut down the angle and get his big body behind the ball. Against England, they bunkered up, barely going forward, and having just 4 attempts. Pickford had to make 1 save. So Slovenia are a side that could potentially cause an upset from a set piece, maybe from a counter that they get right. But other than that, they mostly sit back and rely on their defense. Portugal. What to make of Portugal thus far? Performance against Czechia, not good enough because Portugal doesn't really know how to break down a deep block. That's good for Slovenia. And they needed an own goal for an equalizer and the defender to slip for the winner in that one. Against Turkey, better than against Czechia, as Turkey played much more open, so there were some nice passages of play, but also a gift from Turkey for the second goal, and a poor play by the defender for Portugal's third. Against Georgia, well, we kind of went over that already when speaking of Georgia. A loss of Portugal's own doing in some respects with the wholesale changes and the gifts from Antonio Silva. I am not a big fan of burning matches in the group stage when you have clinched progression early. I think that in these tournaments, momentum and creating a winning atmosphere is so important, like we spoke about with Germany. And you are playing with fire when you burn a match like that, especially when you lose to the lowest ranked team in the tournament who's playing in their first Euros. That's going to sit on the players' minds in like a, damn it, can't believe we did that kind of way. So I expect Portugal's lineup to look like the one against Turkey. I hope they go back to the back 4, and I hope that Rafael Leão is replaced by João Felix, who was one of the only solid performers against Georgia. He and Francisque Conceição were the only positives for me, while Inácio was also quite solid at the back. Ronaldo blew a big opportunity against Georgia, but of course he will still start. But I hope that Martinez will get Jota out there early in the second half if things aren't going well for Ronaldo in this game. Overall, I expect Portugal to go through, but I don't think this will be an enjoyable watch for anybody. Slovenia to copy the Czechia handbook, sit tight, defend with 6 or 7 men in their back line, while Portugal struggle to break them down because instead of keeping the ball on the ground and passing their way into the box with clever movement, as they're capable of with the players they have, Portugal will just pass it around the box and try to whip in crosses to an overpopulated 18-yard box. That's what they do. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts and picks for the round of 16. Be sure to let me know what you think is going to happen in this round of the tournament. Any big upsets that you foresee? Let me know. As always, thanks for watching this monster of a video, and I'll see you guys on Saturday for the first couple of matches. Take care.